All right, and we're live. So hi everyone, thank you for joining us for our very first edition of Alumni Connect. Alumni Connect is a series of online conversations, presentations, and a general forum for a wide variety of topics that are meaningful to the Summer Search community. My name is Eddie Fernandez. I'm a Summer Search North Bay alumnus from 2009 and a chair of the Bay Area Alumni Board. I am currently a user experience researcher at Kaiser Permanente. I'd also like to introduce another member of the Bay Area Alumni Board, Cicely, who has been working with me closely on Alumni Connect. Cicely, if you can just introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for coming out and joining us on this webinar today. My name is Cicely. I graduated from Encinal High School in 2008 and then went to UC San Diego, graduated in 2012. I'm currently at Hall Capital and joined the Alumni Board about a year ago. And excited to see you and you're our guest speaker.
Great, thank you. And today we're very grateful to have Summer Search alumnus Kevin L. Nichols as our very first guest, and he is joining us today to discuss diversity in tech. Kevin has worked in multifaceted capacities for some of the most prolific international law firms in the country, including Morrison Forrester, Paul Hastings, Heller Ehrman, Hall and Knight. Kevin has become a social networking expert and is a full-time consultant specializing in litigation technology, diversity, and social marketing for the legal industry. And Kevin was also recently a panelist at the Summer Search Alumni Summit in October in New York City, where he discussed being a social entrepreneur. So thank you again, Kevin, and if you don't mind introducing yourself a bit more and kind of your history with Summer Search.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I'll save a little intro for me to go straight into my presentation. I think I'll cover Summer Search and everything else in that time period.
Sure.
So without further ado, I'm going to actually show my slides first, and then I'll take questions and answers after that. All right?
Sounds great.
So just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so number one, thank you for allowing me to be the first speaker for the series. I'm very excited about that, and hopefully can participate in the future ones and see what other Summer Search alumni have to share about their experiences. Let's jump right into this. First and foremost, I want to talk about how I got into diversity in technology. So back in, I guess, 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. So I don't know what you guys thought you wanted to be at 7th grade, but I always was interested in math and science. So through the MESA program, I was able to study during the summer at UC Berkeley, learning math, science, and engineering, and then also on the Saturdays, I would go to Cal for that. And until I got to Summer Search, which is around 1991. I don't even know if some of you guys are even born yet. But my first summer at Summer Search, I spent at Choate Rosemary Hall in Wallingford, Connecticut in 1991. Number one, I was I was the first Summer Search student to not go to an outdoor experience. My summers were all educational, and I was in school. So my first summer, I went to Connecticut and studied math, science, and engineering there. My following summer, I went to the chair program at Northwestern University, and I had another Summer Search person with me. Gosh, I think his name was, I can't think of his name right now, but there was 2 of us there, and we did a good job. We had a lot of fun. So I was still, at this point, still interested in math and science and wanted to be an engineer. It took me to the Inroads program where I worked at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory as one of their first engineering interns. It's a business nonprofit that teaches young kids, I guess, freshmen in college or seniors going into college, the skills that they need to be successful in corporate America. So I went to the lab and I studied mechanical engineering. But due to a lot of, I guess I would say, inadequate supervision, not giving me challenging projects, and enough engaging material that kind of kept my interest in the math and sciences up, I kind of lost interest and ended up deciding to change my major from mechanical engineering to political science and African American studies. But luckily for me, my boss was not only was he a mechanical engineer, but he also was the chair of the Affirmative Action and Diversity Program. So instead of kicking me out the firm or kicking me out of the lab, I ended up switching over to a different department and studying diversity. So there I was looking at disparities between men and women and ethnic minorities, looking at their job titles, how much they were making, and see if there were any inequalities there to report to the lab, which I thought was pretty fun and entertaining. And so, yeah, that describes the kind of work that I did. And this is when I decided that, perhaps engineering, since it's something I don't want to do anymore, maybe I will go to law school. And if I go to law school, I might be able to be what I've always wanted to be, which is a social engineer. And I'm going to define that for you here. So a lawyer named Charles Hamilton Houston was a civil rights attorney. He worked on the predecessors or the cases before Brown versus Board of Education. And he came up with this phrase in the late 50s. He says, a lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite on society. So theoretically, a lot of people have mixed feelings about attorneys or lawyers because it's very easy for them to pick a side and argue it to the death, whether or not they believe it or not. But for me, I was like, well, maybe I'll be a civil rights attorney. So I at that time, when I was applying to or thinking about applying to law schools, I had mentors like Johnny Cochran and John Burris, who are my fraternity brothers, but who are also very prominent figures in the Bay Area and throughout the nation as far as civil rights. So I was thinking about emulating them. But what I learned about my experience at the lab was, well, before I invest 4 years in studying this, let me see if I really want to be an engineer. How about trying on and working at a law firm and getting to understand the ins and outs there and see if that's something that I want to do and become a lawyer. So I worked at Morrison & Foerster, and there I entered as a legal assistant or paralegal, what they're called now, to learn how to work with partners and associates as well as secretaries and case assistants. So I kind of would understand the bureaucracy of a law firm, understand the politics of a law firm, how it works, and then I would be able to know how to hire good talent if I started my own law firm, which I wanted to do. But after 2 years and several trials, I decided that I didn't want to be a lawyer either. So luckily I learned that without having to go to 3 years of law school and get $100,000 in debt. So and essentially though, what I realized and what I started figuring out is, Morrison & Foerster was a very progressive law firm. I saw that on its website it talked a lot about the pro bono work that it did in the community. It also talked about, how diverse it was. Well, at that time, it wasn't very diverse as far as people that were there that were actually attorneys or people that were billing like me, but it was very diverse when it came to staff and administration and that kind of stuff. So I was like, look, until I figure out what I want to do when I grow up, so to speak, I'm going to stay in the legal profession. So I ended up starting the diversity program at Morrison & Foerster by creating an annual event called the Black History Month celebration, which actually I did that in the late 90s, and it's been 17 years and it still exists, and it's still one of their very popular events that they do, so I'm pretty proud of that. So for 12 years, I worked in law firms. I worked in 6 law firms in 12 years, and Eddie mentioned some of the firms that I've worked at. But every time working there, and including at Holland & Knight, I chaired their diversity program at the end of my 12-year stint. But essentially, what I realized is the human capital that I was making, relationship-wise, was second to none with regards to the people that I met. I worked hand to hand and directly with name partners or rainmaking partners at big law firms, but I also worked with junior associates that were essentially picked off by tech companies or startup companies, etc., and became in-house counsel or general counsel. So my network was pretty wide, and I was developing some serious relationships there. So well, I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit about my experience in social media. So at the time, this is around 2006 or so, I started 2 LinkedIn groups when groups formed. So I probably had some of the earliest groups that LinkedIn ever had. And I used LinkedIn a lot, and that's how I was able to actually reconnect with the people that I worked with at all these law firms. So at the time, I didn't know exactly how I would keep in touch with everyone. But as time went on, I stayed in contact with them and eventually connected with them on LinkedIn. Anyway, so around 2008, many of the group members of my group started losing their jobs when the economy started to tank. So they were going on 3 and 4 rounds of interviews with companies, but not getting job offers. So to me, what that told me is that their resumes were good enough that they were getting interviews, but there was something that they were not doing correctly in the interview process that was not allowing them to get the job. So it's either they had poor interviewing skills, they were not networking properly, or didn't know how to use social media to find out how to utilize their network at various companies. So what I said is I'm going to put together a conference that focuses on these types of intangible things that people don't know about getting a job. So one day I updated my status, and I said I wanted to put together a conference to address these issues. A friend of mine who happened to be the Dean of Admissions at Golden Gate, or Dean of Students, excuse me, offered to host the conference and sponsor it, right? So I was pretty thrilled about that. Then I got contacted by LinkedIn. Right? So they asked me, hey, would you like to write a blog post about using our website to put this conference together? And I was like, what do you think I said?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, this was during the time they didn't even really have a marketing department. So they were like, look, Yahoo just called us, CNN called us, MarketWatch just called us, the Wall Street Journal just called us. Would you be willing to answer would you be able to answer, talk to a reporter, et cetera, blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you think my answer was?
Also yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So then they asked me, hey, Kevin, you've done so much stuff for us. Why don't you come to our headquarters and shoot an ad so that you can appear on the homepage for us for 2 years? What do you think I said to that?
Sign me up.
So basically, about 250 million people saw me or 3 other people every time they put their username and password into the website.
Wow.
Great.
So, needless to say, I have a very great relationship with LinkedIn, but I also teach LinkedIn for lawyers and for other organizations on how to use it. So I think I have a little street cred now because of that happening.
I think it's more
So now we're going to, how I got into starting my own consulting firm, which is going to lead to the diversity conversation that we're all waiting for. So basically, I realized that the capital that I had built was my relationships. And as I mentioned, the relationships that I built in the industry basically allowed me to, instead of calling a secretary or calling to speak to someone and getting a secretary or getting derailed by an intermediary or a third person, I can go directly to these people and say, hey, let's go to lunch, let's go to coffee, let me talk about what your pain points are and see if I have a product or solution for you. So basically, one of my friends approached me in '09 when the economy tanked and said, "Look, have you ever thought about sales?" And I said, "No, I'm not a sales guy. I do know a lot of people that could sell you a used car without an engine in it, but I'm not one of those kind of people." But they were like, "Look, have you ever looked at your contacts on LinkedIn, to see who, the people that you're connected to?" And I said, "No, I haven't done that." And they're like, "Well, look, you're connected to general counsel, you're connected to partners at law firms, corporate counsel. If you like a product, would you refer a product to people?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do that all the time." And they're like, "Okay, well, do you get paid for that?" I'm like, "No." So how about we pay you 6 figures to fly up and down the West Coast and introduce our products and services to your friends and colleagues? And then I was like, "What do you think my answer to that was?"
Also yes. Also yes.
Okay, so basically, I'm like, that's what you call work? I'm like, okay, sign me up. This is great. So basically, I'm flying to the Pacific Northwest, Southern California, sunny San Diego, Sicily, everywhere, and going to fancy restaurants and doing fancy things and just selling products and services to people. So I said, you know what, this is great. Like, why don't I do this? There are some things that I liked about it, and there are some things I didn't like about it. So I was like, well, everything I've built and that I like in this industry, I am going to do for a living. And the stuff that I don't like, I'm not going to. So I started my own consulting firm. And for, I'd say, that 5 years, I have been both selling legal technology. I've been helping law firms deal with their problem with diversity, so recruiting, retention, and doing events around diversity. And I've been helping companies build their social media or their brand online, so help out with website design, building their social engagement, and then also working one-on-one with attorneys on generating content. They can be found via SEO online. In August, I recently joined a company that, similar to the company I mentioned to you a moment ago that wanted to fly me around to do this stuff. The company reached out to me in early June and asked me to assist them with business development on the West Coast. They're a New York-based company. So I said, sure, why not? It makes sense. And so right now I'm reconnecting with my legal contacts and helping to build their brand here on the West Coast. And while I'm doing that, I'm working on the social engineering project. And that's what we're here to talk about now.
Hey, Kevin, if you don't mind me stepping in real quick before we get to that, just for everyone who is watching, you can submit Q&A questions kind of throughout this. So just real quick, let me show everyone how to do that. So if you take a look, this is probably what your screen looks like, and in the top portion, in the top bar of the Hangout, you'll see kind of 9 little squares, and there's a section for Q&A, and that'll open up, and you can submit a question. So you just hit Ask a New Question, and we'll try to get around to that after Kevin has done his presentation. So. Thank you, Kevin. Just wanted to throw that out there for the people that are watching.
No problem. So here, this slide basically, hopefully you guys can see it. This shows a landscape, and the source that I got this from is at the bottom. But it shows you the landscape of some of the top 5 tech companies in the Silicon Valley, what their numbers were that they reported as far as diversity. And so, and when I mean diversity, we're talking about underrepresented minorities. I have some information about women as well, but it's not on the slide. But anyway, so it's about 30. I'd say 30% were all, generally speaking, women versus men.
Oh wow.
Sorry, you guys. I'm getting over a cold. I apologize. But anyway, 30%. Women versus men, and traditionally we're hovering around between 1 to 3 on average percent African American, 3 to 7% Hispanic, and then as you can see, the numbers of Asian and white, are pretty massive. So this is what the current state is, self-reporting wise from the tech company. So here's some of the claims that the industry claims that the problem is, the answers to this. They say, number one, there's a lack of adequate pipeline, meaning that there's not enough people, young, underrepresented minorities, pursuing math, science, and engineering. They only recruit from the top tier schools, so that they claim that there are not underrepresented minorities there because in sheer numbers wise at these schools, there are not very many people that are there either. Historically black colleges and universities and women's colleges do not have adequate CS programs and computer science programs, which is, what they say. Whether that's true or not, we'll discuss and talk about in a moment. Underrepresented minorities and women are not interested in computer science. And then the directors of diversity through a lot of tech companies claim that they cannot gamble on taking students from second tier or third tier schools because if they gamble on a student that's not from a top tier school and they don't make it, well, they lose credibility when it comes to working with their peers and their superiors inside the companies. So here's what the industry needs. We need to build up and maintain a robust pipeline. We need to link HBCUs and women's colleges with tech companies. We need to incentivize recruiters and business managers to hire more underrepresented minorities and women. So but right now, recruiters don't, back in the day, they used to have recruiting firms or staffing firms would go out and get all the talent. Now, those people are in-house, a lot of companies. So they don't get compensated for hiring people that are not, that are minorities. So they need more incentives to do that. And business managers, you can increase the pipeline as much as you want, but if you don't have if you don't have business managers that are going to hire the people in the end, then it doesn't matter. And also, there's a lot of, as you know, crossbreeding in the tech industry. So people don't stay at a place very long. So the companies need to work on retaining good talent that they invest in bringing. And we also need to train adults to enter the technology industry. But oftentimes, if you're over 30 years old, you're over the hill in tech, and people don't recruit from you, or they don't think that you are capable of handling tech jobs because of your age. So here is the Q&A period. Here's my contact information. Everybody can reach out and contact me, via phone or via email. And what are your questions?
Okay. So once again, for people who are listening in order to submit your questions, let me once again share my screen. So to submit Q&A questions for Kevin, you'll see at the top of the web browser there's 9 kind of little squares, and you click on that, click on QA, and then ask a new question. So go ahead and submit as you go. In the meantime, Cicely and I can ask Kevin a few questions that we have, but please feel free to submit questions as we kind of go along. Okay.
So we have a first question in the Q&A box.
That one. Need to unmute Kevin. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so the question is from Tony Huynh. He asked, "Hi Kevin, how can we encourage our own managers to hire more minorities within our teams?"
Well, that's a good question. A lot of times for hiring managers concerned, they need to see the value in why diverse teams are important. So number one, that comes from the top down. So if you have, C-level execs that are mandating this, it usually helps that go further. But also there's a lot of data and research out there that if you Google it, you can find how the studies that show diverse teams outperform regular monogamous teams by like 2 to 3 times. And if you email me or whatever, I know I've seen them. I could probably send them to you, but if not, I'm sure you can find it on Google. But showing them data usually kind of helps further that conversation along.
Okay. And Kevin, and kind of you pointed out some of the reasons that tech companies kind of claim is a struggle to recruit a diverse group of employees. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, what's really holding tech companies back from kind of putting in the effort to recruit from a diverse pool of candidates?
Okay, well, so here's the deal. As I mentioned, tech companies recruit at places where they think they're going to most likely find candidates that are ready to enter the field right away. So they're going to go to a top-tier school, an Ivy League school, etc. Many of the students that are pursuing technology that are not at these schools, the recruiters don't go to. So there's no way for them to get it. There's no way for them to get it any other way. So what ends up happening, and what needs to happen, is, and that's part of what the social engineering project is doing. And I actually didn't talk very much about that. But the social engineering project is tackling this problem in 3 different ways. So the first way is the pipeline. I have a camp for 11 and 12-year-olds through Stanford University that we're going to take 50 students to learn math, science, and engineering this summer for a week. And then I'm also going to take about 150 high school students to learn math, science, and engineering via a camping conference in the mountains. So basically, high school students with no Wi-Fi, and all they're going to do is be able to be exposed to math and science and get motivated and inspired to want to pursue a career in that. So those are the 2 programs that I have already that are going to be on the pipeline aspect. Now, the more complicated part, and the reason why I need to raise funds, etc., is to deal with linking historically black colleges and universities with tech companies. So there are a lot of schools that have strong CS programs, but sometimes the professors are not teaching them the right curriculum, or the curriculum that has legitimacy for the tech company. So creating an incubator where we can train the professors to make sure they're teaching the appropriate curriculum, so that a kid can come out taking a class from there and have the legitimacy they need to start in tech right away. Also, a concern that tech companies have about recruiting at second-tier schools is that the students are not prepared to the cultural shift or adjustment when they get here. So imagine taking somebody from Memphis or Birmingham, Alabama, or something like that, and dropping them off in Menlo Park. Well, that could be a little traumatizing for someone who's from the South or from a different area. And it takes some time for those people to assimilate or get acclimated around the area. So that's an area that we would also assist with our students. So we build the pipeline directly from colleges to tech and make sure that they're fully prepared to be able to enter a tech company right away.
Kevin, can I jump in really quickly to ask about the camp that you're pursuing, in the science camp in the mountains? How do you choose these students, and are there specific high schools that you're targeting, and what is the application process to get into this camp?
So this camp primarily is going to focus in the East Bay. It's going to be, I'm going to have a bus that leaves from the, I won't say the South Bay, but to accommodate people that live in the South Bay. So I'm going to have a bus that leaves in like San Leandro, Castro Valley area. I'm going to have a bus that leaves in Oakland. I'm going to have a bus that leaves in like El Cerrito or Richmond area. I'm going to take 50 kids from each of these different places. I'm going to contact school districts, let them know that the application online is available, and people can register however we have space for them. And then what's going to happen is we're going to get those students out there and put them in cabins of about 9 kids each, 9 or 10, and they're going to be a few from each different site. And hopefully none of them will know each other.
Okay. And so going back a little bit into your slides and a little bit what you were discussing earlier in terms of kind of getting more female students and students of color and kind of just diverse range of students, how do we get them more interested in tech, given that there is kind of this cultural acclimation that, in a way can be shocking and might even not be appealing to someone who comes from a different background?
Well, number one, people have to see that other people are doing it. I mean, so one of the reasons why we're going to have the camp outside of the area is to remove a lot of distractions and allow the students to really see the professionals that are going to be leading these workshops are engineers. They're going to be people that are in the civil engineering. They're going to be exposed to people that build bridges and buildings. They're going to be exposed to people that design airplanes, people that create the code that power the apps that they use, things of that nature. So people are going to see professionals from the high school level of this is what you can accomplish and achieve. And then this is something that can get you motivated and excited about going into a field like that. From the younger people's perspective, it's more about understanding from a real life perspective how the stuff that they're learning in the book really manifests itself in real life. So it's very much more hands-on, creating vacuums, it's almost like every day will be, instead of having a science fair, you're spending like a month or two preparing for a science fair and having one project, every day is going to be a science fair for them. And they're going to learn, all of the ins and outs of creating something that they can demonstrate the principles that they've learned in school from a hands-on perspective.
Okay. And just one more time, for those of you who are on and watching, if you want to ask Kevin a question, you simply go to the top bar of the broadcast, and there's 9 kind of squares at the top. And if you click on that and click Q&A, this side area will come up, and there you can ask Kevin a question. So again, just kind of 9 square area at the top, click Q&A, and ask a question from there. Okay. So Kevin,
Can I jump in really quickly and
yeah.
Not all, technology firms have a wide variety of jobs that are not necessarily revolved around engineering or just tech in general. There's like business development, sales, there's tons of careers within tech that don't necessarily involve like a science background. Do you think that the notion of tech is so scary that it's not even attracting students who don't come from science backgrounds as well?
Probably. Here's part of the dilemma or the problem with that, though. If we're talking about pipeline, if we're talking versus college level, if you're a college graduate or getting ready to graduate, it's a different conversation. But for youth, the goal really is to motivate anything that's math, science related, because medicine, business, law, all of these careers are driven from that having a strong foundation in these principles. So unlike other programs out there that emphasize coding or emphasize, you don't need to go to school, you can create things creatively and not have to worry. That's not what the social engineering project's about, and that's not what I feel as though we need to be doing to fix our problem of diversity. Diversity could be those other areas as well in these tech companies, but my concern is that if we don't emphasize this hardcore science and math now, then it's an afterthought to be able to enter that without having that being the focus. So what I'm suggesting or saying is that we really need to not only get more people, into the pipeline for that, but once you've got the math and science and you've gotten through your first 2 years of college, you can go into marketing, you can go into HR, you can go to these areas and still, I mean, a lot of these companies are going to be tech companies if you want to get a job. I mean, everything is shifting that way anyway, so you're going to have to find employment somewhere, and most likely you're going to be at a tech company.
And Kevin, just kind of bring up your blog, which I highly recommend everyone to kind of check out. You had mentioned kind of the conversation shifting from diversity as the noun to inclusion as the verb. So if you can just kind of explain a little bit more about kind of that shift in perspective and kind of your viewpoints on that.
Yeah, so, inclusion is not really a verb. But I'm playing on words there, and the point really is that diversity is something, that a conversation piece people talk about, but there's no action behind it. Just pointing out something that you acknowledge exists. The inclusion pieces means that you actually have to do something about what you're talking about. So you have to be able to have programs in place to retain people. It's good. It does you no good to recruit and spend a lot of money and bring diverse talent to your company if you have no plan in place to keep them there. And if they feel isolated, they're not contributing, or they're being treated differently than their peers, most likely they're going to leave and go someplace else. So you just wasted your time and effort. Nothing. So inclusion means not just getting and hiring your token person to be on your team, but to actually make sure that that person is set up to win and be a contributor. And unless we want these people to be contributors in our company, we're gonna be missing out on something. And if your culture doesn't accept it, then it's really not going to. It's just a formality. You're just wasting your time. And some companies just are doing it because they just think it's the right thing to look like they're doing, but they don't really mean it, and their culture hasn't shifted at all.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because at least within my team at Kaiser, everyone kind of brings up that it's the most diverse group of kind of individuals that they've ever worked with, and arguably kind of the best team in terms of the overall team dynamic and the personalities meshing very well together. So I think our manager has done a very good job. She is Colombian, born in Colombia, moved to the U.S., and she's brought together a very diverse team, and it's kind of meshed really well. And it's just kind of interesting to think about an inclusive environment and kind of what difference that makes in terms of, we not only work well together, but we also want to kind of spend time with each other outside of work as well, and it's kind of interesting given a lot of the concerns I hear about the tech industry and how it's not inclusive and it can be isolating.
Okay, I agree with you.
So as employees, I mean, I don't work at a tech firm, but if I were an employee at a tech firm and I see this issue going on, what can I do? What are the steps do I need to take in order for this issue not just to be recognized but to be fixed?
What can you do to change this dynamic, you mean?
Exactly. As an employee at a tech firm.
As an employee, number one, I would recommend you look at a guy, I think his name is Leslie Smiley. He recently just did, he's been featured in a number of articles in the last, say, 3 weeks, maybe last month. He was a senior engineer at Twitter and was instrumental in creating some programs where they could, he was trying to set his company up to win as far as being able to recruit talent, retain talent, etc. And he was implementing some ideas to his superiors, etc. And there was a lot of pushback. And he got frustrated, and he quit, and then they tried to give him a severance package so he could sign a waiver so he could not talk about it, and he refused. So he ended up saying, "No, I don't want any severance. I don't want any money from you, and I want to be able to leave this place freely, talking about the problems that exist here." So what I would say is Google search that and look at it. But those are some direct ways, whether it's you know, getting involved in volunteering for organizations that are about diversifying tech and getting your employees to have a team or do a fundraiser for them. Also meeting with anything dealing with diversity at your company, going to those meetings, getting involved in your employee resource groups, and supporting scholarships and other things like that. Really getting active with the community that's surrounding, and make sure that your voice is heard and it's a representative of the surrounding community around you.
And kind of on the other end, what's the kind of advice for people who are kind of trying to break into the tech industry or are even kind of having trouble acclimating to kind of the workplace culture? Kind of what might you suggest for those people?
There are a lot of books out there online. I go to Amazon.com. There's a lot of books out there that talk about the tech industry, the do's and don'ts about it, what things you can expect. Also, there's a good resource. If you just go to Google's website and look at diversity and their diversity page, I think it's google.com/diversity. There are all kind of videos and articles about Google itself and its culture and how it does certain things, but you can extrapolate from that a lot of things that you can walk away with the industry in general and what Silicon Valley is really like.
And then kind of piggyback on the Google comment, would you say that Google is kind of the thought leader in bringing this, addressing this issue and working on this issue? Like, who would you see, if you had to make a short list of a couple of companies that you view are really trying to combat this, what would those names be?
I would look at what Pinterest is doing. Pinterest is, I've met their person, the people of, what's his title? I don't know, Chief People Officer or something like that. But they're doing some interesting things in diversity that I've read about that I think if they continue and are able to be more innovative too, that a lot of companies could learn a lot from some of their programs that they're working on and incentives that they're trying to do. A lot of the tech companies have directors of diversity, and most of those people are promoted from within, which has its advantages and disadvantages. On one hand, people that are already in the company understand the culture a little bit more authentically and can help change it or improve it, whereas someone from the outside has to get buy-in and become one of them in order to really participate and have the kind of power and influence that they need to be able to affect change.
It's interesting you bring up Pinterest because as far as I know, one of the first hires, I think he might have actually been employee number 1 for Pinterest. He was a user experience designer named Justin Edmond. He's a black designer. Not that that necessarily defines him, but it's kind of interesting that right from the get-go, the first hire, one of the first few hires, was a black man. And it's interesting to see that still kind of carrying over in terms of the way they're functioning. So if anyone's curious, Justin Edmond, the user experience designer, I believe he's also kind of discusses issues around inclusion, diversity online.
Great.
So again, just to reiterate, so for anyone who would like to ask Kevin a question, you go to the top of the web browser where it has 9 little squares. You click on it, click on Q&A, and then submit a question. So again, click on the 9 little squares on Q&A, and then submit a question. So I want to make sure that people who are on get a chance to submit a question. I think I got a question outside. Yeah, I got a question outside of the Google Hangout. So Molly English, who is actually a user experience designer, interaction designer, she asked, what is something a minority could do over their career instead of just breaking in, and what are those challenges?
What can repeat the first part?
What is something a minority could do over their career instead of just breaking in, and what those challenges are? So I think the question is around how do I kind of move forward with my career and kind of, I'm assuming more along the lines of kind of upward mobility as opposed to just breaking in. How do I continue kind of stepping up the ladder?
Well, so basically, tech is kind of divided in a lot of projects and working with different teams. Having the courage to step out of your little comfort zone and work in different project teams and taking on more challenging assignments. That gets your name out there. People recognize you, and upper management will want you on their team or will have heard good things about you and want to promote you. Ultimately, if you really want to stay in the industry or hopefully in the same company that you're in, is building your brand internally and your reputation so that people know that A, you're a hard worker, B, your work product is great, and then C, you're a team player and that you'll be an asset to someone if they wanted you on their team.
Okay. So let's see, do we have anything else? Okay.
I just want to ask briefly, have you noticed, those, maybe this was different, like a year or 2 years ago, those that come from different backgrounds are afraid to speak up about this issue? And have you seen that change? I mean, obviously, it's been in the news more often, but can you talk a little bit more about, those who are within the tech companies that are, facing this issue, but maybe are afraid to speak up? Have you seen any examples of that?
I think the tide is turning. You read the blog post that there's a situation where Reverend Jesse Jackson, the Push Tech 2020 movement that he's created, basically is requiring companies to publish their numbers regarding diversity. It's making diversity conversations less taboo and bringing it out in the forefront of people. So talk about diversity. So people are talking about it everywhere. Like I said, the part that's people aren't really sure about yet is the actual inclusion part of it. So, but yeah, the conversation is making it easy.
So one more time, it seemed like someone had kind of an issue submitting a question. So just again, just to reiterate, let's see. Okay. So to submit a question, you click on the 9 boxes at the top, click Q&A, and then at the bottom there's a button that says Ask a New Question. And there you can submit your question and basically enter it and submit. So just in case that wasn't obvious enough or you're just having issues, that's where you submit those questions. Okay.
One question I have regarding the project that you're working on, the camp, and the 10, 11-year-olds that you're working with. Where do you see that program 5 years from now and 10 years from now? Is the goal to continue to expand past California and serve students from across the U.S.? Is it to, can you talk a little bit more about your goals within this program?
So basically the goal of it is to create an opportunity to replicate the success of it. So my business partner is a professor at Stanford, and we're studying the effects of how essential and how productive the camps are. And what that research will be replicated, when do these same conferences in different cities and different states throughout the country, and really develop a strong pipeline of kids that are interested in math and science. And that's the goal, really. This is just a testing ground to be able to get the data and show proven that we're able to do this. So this will be the 4th year of the Science in the City camp. So it's been around for 5 years. We've got a lot of success. And the camping conferences I used to do in college, as a college student, ironically.
Oh,
So I used to chair 2 of them when I was in college. And then I went to the same organization and asked them to do it, and they just don't have the bandwidth anymore. They used to have about, I guess, 60 plus people in a chapter, and now there's like 16. So, I mean, the numbers of African Americans in college studying engineering are very small now. So they don't have the resources to do that. So that's why I'm raising the funds to be able to put the campus conferences together and also be able to eat while I'm doing it.
So I was wondering, in terms of the camps, you had mentioned that you try to get some people who are currently working in the industry and from kind of a wide variety of backgrounds. And I'm just curious if you could give us a little bit more insight as to who these people are and kind of, what their interaction with the students is like.
I'm sorry that I missed maybe that picture outside the window.
No.
Question. I'm a male. I don't most as well, so.
No, it's okay. So let's see. Now I'm blanking out.
The interaction with students.
Yeah. So if you can just give us a little bit more insight in terms of who the people who kind of help you out at these camps are. What do they do, and what's kind of their interaction with their students?
So I'm literally going to be training. So they're going to be counselors with the kids for the camping conference. So that'll be like, if I have 150 kids, I'll probably have 40 counselors. And one person will be in each cabin with them, and will be their mentor pretty much. Some of them will have engineering background, some of them may not. But they'll all be trained, and they'll all go through during that training, some team building exercises. They'll all be a cohesive group. You can imagine being responsible for 150, hormonic kids out there, in the wilderness. And we definitely have to be on the same page, and it will be a sleepless weekend. But nevertheless, the goal really is to take some of these students. Some of them may not have ever been outside of their couple of cities. We're going to Santa Cruz Mountains, so they're going to be, in a place that they probably have never been before. It'll be no connection to anything, so they'll be trusting us, and we'll build confidence with them. They'll have some opportunities too to have some enjoyable experiences. We usually have a talent show. We allow them to be creative and express themselves. I have to revisit. We used to have a dance. I don't know if I've got the bandwidth to deal with that. So, I had to scratch that. They might be whipping and dangling. So,
I remember that. I remember that.
I don't know all that. So we're just going to try to keep people 13 and hope for the best. But yeah, it should be a great experience for them. I used to do them when I was in high school. So I went as a student. So then when I chaired them, I knew exactly what to do, what not to do, but I also knew where to go. Where I could catch them, in the middle of the night, losing their way to the bathroom.
So, one participant, Molly English, had a follow-up question for you, Kevin. Is there a way that we can help, us as Summer Search alums can help Kevin and his work? I mean, are you looking for volunteers? What can we do, as part of the Summer Search Alumni Network, help you with your work?
So that's a great question. So first and foremost, let me tell you guys where we're currently at. Okay, right now, like I said, I am in the process of starting this venture. So it's going to probably be a B corporation. So my old law firm I used to work at, Morrison & Forster, just agreed as of, I think today, as a matter of fact, they're going to set my company up and give me all the free legal advice that I need for free, pro bono.
Awesome.
So that's going to be early 2016, I should have that stuff wrapped up. Then I've been working on a slide deck for it. And I mean, people have been asking me to just ask them for money, you know, and I'm just not ready yet because I don't want to. I don't want to ask for stuff that I need to know exactly what I need, you know. And so right now I'm not in a place where I feel comfortable getting people assisting me yet because I'm not at that point. But I will need anyone that's a Summer Search alum that has experience in math and science or engineering. I'll have some teaching opportunities during the summer for the Science in the City camp for the 11 and 12-year-olds. And that's separate funding. And then I'll also be doing with the engineering camp when I get the dates and that kind of stuff. I'll be working primarily with getting, you know, I'll need counselors, like I mentioned. I'll need some other, you know, involvement. And Summer Search alums are welcome to come up the weekend and pitch in wherever they need to. And then there'll be other, you know, events that I'll do. There'll be actual follow-up afterwards too, because what's important is not just to have it be a weekend and then them turned loose for the rest of the year, you know. So there'll be some follow-up, and there'll always be opportunities for volunteers to get involved that way as well.
Okay, great. So, Kevin, I know we're almost close to the time, so I was just wondering if there was anything else you kind of wanted to mention to the alums watching, plug in anything, your website, anything at all.
So I definitely, you can go to www.thesocialengineer.org and stay abreast of what's happening. My email is on there. You can email me from the website. And I do have a Google Doc that has some like a distribution list of things that I need as far as planning the camping conference. So if people have skills with, I need people to, you know, help out with registration. So the database folks, you know, when we get the students in there, everything's going to be online. So I haven't developed that yet. I used to share these back in the day when you use paper. So so we'll have, that's a component. I'll need to market the camp. I'll need transportation. I people to you know, get some quotes and tell me how much it costs and go with that. And you know, so there's other areas of the planning process that if people want to get involved, they can get involved, and I'll add them to that distribution list.
All right. So I think we're about done. So just want to plug in real quick for those of you who are in the Bay Area. So this coming Monday, Summer Search is having a college success and alumni holiday party in San Francisco at the Hall, which is at 1028 Market Street in San Francisco. So that starts at 7. If you are a part of the Summer Search Bay Area Alumni Facebook group, all of the information is on there. So swing by. Kevin will be there as well.
And also, I want to extend an invitation. Everybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect with me. You'll have access to my network. One thing I just ask is that when you send me the request, let me know that you're a Summer Search alum. Otherwise, I just don't know to accept you. All right. So number one, I appreciate being the guinea pig of this. I apologize for any background noise or me like waving at people and stuff, because it's been, if you only knew what was going on out here on my end. So I appreciate it, though. I'm pretty accessible. I always say to people, I'm a cheap date. So if you want to take me to coffee or lunch and pick my brain for a half hour or so, I got diarrhea of the mouth, I'll just keep going. So, so definitely reach out to me, and if I have the time, I'll make it for you.
Cicely, anything to add?
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Kevin. This has meant a lot for us, and for those who couldn't come, we're going to be posting the replay on YouTube, so make sure to check that out.
Yep.
All right, guys. See you later.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
See you Monday.
You're welcome.
And thank
All
you
right,
for
see you.
watching.
Bye-bye.
See you Monday. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was Kevin L. Nichols and this Cicely and Eddie signing off. And hopefully we'll catch you guys Monday at the holiday party at the hall in San Francisco.
Also, if you have more topics you want to discuss, our email addresses are on the invite, or just feel free to send us a note through Facebook. We are on the Summer Search alumni Facebook group, and I'm sure we can revisit those.
Yep, and you can also email me directly at fernandez.eduardo3@gmail.com. All right. Well, Cicely, good job. First time with the guinea pig.
I'll see you Monday.
All right. Have a good one.